I always thought that, being, holding boundaries, saying no was bitchy, like that I had to be a bitch essentially to do that, and realizing, oh, I don't have to do that. I can still be me. And that was something that, you and I worked together to bring that authenticness within me, that heart and that love within me, but also doing it with boundaries and realizing that that's the best for everyone around you when you're listening to your own intuition and boundaries. And so that really allowed for a lot of space to then put my energy into the things that I believe God was asking me to create into my family, into my business.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celinne Acosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in. Hello, soul family. Welcome back to It's Not What You Think. I'm here today with a dear friend and former client, Marie Poza. Marie, hi.
Hi, Celine. It's so good to be back here with you.
Yeah, so here's something you don't know that we know. Marie is back on the podcast, but she actually hasn't been quote unquote on the podcast because about a year and a half ago, we recorded a case study. So Marie was working with me for about a year, and we recorded this incredible case study on all her incredible transformations, which we're going to be sharing today, and just the huge realizations that she had as a successful businesswoman, mama of two, wife, like just managing all the things, balancing all the things, as well as a functional wellness practitioner. And we had this incredible case study, but then basically what happened is that it kept getting pushed back. It kept getting pushed back. And then when we were just about ready to publish the case study about a year later after we recorded it, Marie was like, listen, I got to tell you something. There have been so many incredible things that have happened since we recorded that case study that I actually think we need to do a new one, because that case study is so old, it's not even relevant anymore. I have more to add on to it. And of course I was like, yeah. And, when I was just talking to her, and I've been catching with her because Marie is now a friend of mine as well. And she's, oh my God, it's going to blow your socks off. So I'm really excited to have her here on the podcast to share with you the incredible transformations that she has led herself through in the last couple of years now since we've worked together. And so yeah, Marie, before we dive into the questions, please, the floor is yours. Say hello and introduce yourself. What are you working on? What are you most passionate about these days? And then we'll dive in.
Hi, my name is Marie Poza. I am a women's wellness practitioner. And before I just say a little bit about that, I actually have to say, Celine, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about our podcast today, that we've known each other for over 4 years now. And you know how I know that is because Luca is 3, and I found out that I was pregnant the day after I had signed the contract with you. And I always say that I'm like, if God knew me, because if I knew that I was going to be pregnant, I probably would have said no. But he knew this is exactly what I needed. Celine was what I needed at that time. And it absolutely was divine timing, even if it seems like such crazy timing being pregnant during that time. But Luke is now 3, which is unreal. So
I love it.
yeah,
Luca is like the marker of our work here.
I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I will always know how long I've known Celine because Luca just turned 3, and I found out I was pregnant the day after I signed the contract with you. So it was been just such a journey, a beautiful journey. I am a wellness practitioner. I have been in this field for about 15 years now. And I always say I was so blessed because although I didn't know at the time how special this was going to be, I was at the start of my business over 15 years ago. I was invited into a practice where there were various practitioners and doctors. So it was a very, very unique but special situation where we would have the same patient, and there would be the chiropractor, the naturopathic doctor, the acupuncturist, the therapist, and we would be working on the same person, go into lunch together, and be able to share and our experiences, all having a general wide perspective of what each other did, but also having a different expertise so we could really share from a very unique perspective. And it was because of that that to this day I work with doctors and helping women just to create a team for them, whether that is finding the right doctor, in between the different practitioners or doctors that they see. I always say I work similarly to like your general contractor. You're putting together this beautiful body, helping it to thrive. And I'm finding the people that are best to help and support you throughout your journeys. So that's a little bit about what I do. I always believe that, your mind and body is your vessel. And no matter what purpose you are here to fulfill, no matter what big dream you have in your heart, if you're not feeling well inside of your mind and body, we all know this. It is so darn hard. You feel like you are like walking this, up of this, huge mountain with this boulder on your shoulder, just trying to reach anything. And yet we also know what it feels like when you feel incredible in your mind and body too. It's like you just feel like, superwoman, just taking on everything. You feel so good. You feel in flow. And that's, my contribution in that piece is just really helping your vessel, that mind and body, to be so strong and thriving. So, on your way to goal, it feels good, it feels light, and you get there quicker and more successfully. So
Mhm.
that's a little bit about what I do.
Beautiful. And I love it. It's so poetically connected with our work together and even my own journey. So it's also deeply connected because anyone, who's been listening to this podcast, that one of my favorite topics to talk about is the deep, deep correlation between health and wealth. And I've gone through my own health journeys. One of them through actually Marie facilitated me through after our work together. She helped me with some really wonderful health stuff as well. So, I'm really intimate and deeply, deeply value this mission that you have of us taking care of our physical vessels, our bodies, because that's what really gives us that vital life force energy to show up and do what we need to do when it comes to our life's mission. So
Absolutely.
yeah, beautiful mission. Okay, so let's dive down memory lane. And I I guess it's 4 years ago. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize I miscalculated that one.
Almost 4 years.
Because what I love about your story is that you literally are an embodiment of the long-term value of transformation work. And I think anyone out there, even yourself, like anyone who's service oriented, anyone who's doing deep transformational work, who was in these fields, like this is an incredible Marie's story is going to be an incredible way to see how the work that we do, it keeps giving, right? It keeps like, and even using a metaphor of your work, Marie, like me cleaning up my body 3 years ago, doing that deep work to clean up my body sets me up to have a vessel where I can be a mother in the next couple of years, right? And so it's like this the same way you doing the clearing work and the deep, deep internal, emotional, subconscious reprogramming work that you did set you up for really creating such an incredible life for yourself. And so, let's rewind back to I would say and I'm now using
Sure.
Luca's age to count backwards, like 2 years ago. So you and I worked together for about a year. And popping out of that year, there were some incredible things that you shared about in the last case study. I remember one of the things that you came to me when you and I first started working together is you were feeling really overworked and underpaid in your health practice. You are struggling from just lack of boundaries and people pleasing and operating primarily from your masculine energy despite being naturally very feminine. You're always in this process of looking externally for solutions rather than trusting your intuition. And the other thing is really, just finding like things aren't working. So can you speak more into what was going on at that time in your life that had you say to yourself, I need to do this work? And you signed the contract and then you were pregnant and you're like, I'm doing it anyways. And what were your biggest breakthroughs during that initial work together?
Okay. Wow. So much. Okay. Where to start? So at that time, I remember where I was. I was washing dishes, feeling just frustrated and tired, and had put my kids to bed. And my assistant sent me over a link to one of your master classes. And she's always up and up with everyone out there. And she's like, you got to hear what she has to say. And you started talking about, so I remember I put you up like in front of the dishes as I was, washing them, finishing a long day of work with clients. And you were just talking about how, being in your feminine flow, it just, even you saying feminine flow felt so good. I could just feel like, oh, that sounds amazing. And how that's the way to have true long-term joyful success in the work that we do. And it's not being in the masculine the way we've been taught and told. And, all these years growing up or in our subconscious programming. And it really just resonated so quickly with me because I'm one that I was an overthinker at that time. I was never one to go and say, oh, yes, she's the one. It was like my intuition connected so fast. And I said, she's the person I need to be with. I need to learn. And I remember a year prior to that, me just feeling I was so spread thin and I was so frustrated because here I talk about joy with the women that I work with, helping you to thrive in your mind and your body. Yet all the things that I was aiming to do, I was feeling burnt out and so spread thin. And I remember saying like, God, I know there's a better way. Something's not right here. I truly believe we're not meant to reach these big goals that are supposed to impact others for the greater good of all at the expense of our mind and our body. It did not make sense to me. And it was at that point that I said, I'm going to find another way. I don't know how, but I am determined. And I think, it maybe took a year until I came to you, but I started to see like, okay, there's something not right here. I don't have to push and grind and white knuckle my way through everything and be miserable just to create this good on the other end. Like, why does it have to be that way? It doesn't make sense. And so that's what was happening to me at that point. I feel like I've always had a very vibrant, great practice of clients, but I wanted to create more and my bandwidth wasn't there, to be able to do that, be a mom, be a wife, like live life and enjoy it too. So that's what was really happening, really just spread thin, not just with myself, but I wanted to find a better way for the woman that I was serving at that time. And so I think I started out with your story. I think we might have been working together for a year and a half, actually. And I
Hmm.
think I started with the story.
Clarity intensive.
Thank you. The Clarity Intensive. And that was where we started together. And it was there that everything kind of broke open. Of course, I'm now pregnant. So like, which is what I think I honestly needed. I think there is something to that. I was more open. There was more of that vulnerability. But in that story, Clarity, you had, me really go back and look at my story. And it really helped me to look at all sides of this, what I'm now say is this beautiful tapestry. Because I think prior to that, I didn't realize it. Prior to our work together, I didn't realize that I was honestly really scared to be me. And it makes me so sad, just like with gentleness and love on myself, but just thinking about how I didn't want to tell people that I came from a beautiful childhood in many ways because I was that pleaser. I wanted people to feel comfortable. And I knew that wasn't what a lot of people had experienced. So I would hide that. I wouldn't tell people that, the hardship, which is really where the masculine came from, which is this side of, I grew up in a family of 4 girls, 5 girls, actually, including my mom. My dad said, like, let's just, any dog we had was always a girl. He's like, well, let's just go with it. It's just a house full of girls. My dad built myself and my mom and my 3 sisters a beautiful, beautiful home in the middle of the woods. And it's still there. They're still with it today. But there were times my dad had a business, and I want to be really honest because I'm trying to really own this piece too, because it's something so beautiful in them. And my father had a business that he was handed down to, or handed off to, from his father. And it was a successful business for the most part, but I know he was unhappy in it. And we would make a lot of money at up front, and kind of, it was like a lot of feast and famine in our home. And I that's not what people saw on the outside, but that's what was happening on the inside. And so um then there would be times where there was no work and there was no money either. And there were times where we thought everything that I loved, my family nucleus in this beautiful home, I was so afraid was going to just be ripped apart, because we didn't know if we were going to lose the house. I mean, there was many times where we thought we were going to have to lose our home. And I wouldn't share any of that, because for multiple reasons. But in that moment, everyone, I think, depending on whatever little trauma that you experience, depending on your personality, you're going to respond or react in a different way depending on who you are. I was the oldest of the four girls. I loved my family, saw myself as this protector. It's not, my mom and dad didn't do that. They were wonderful. That was never something they put on me. Um, in fact, I think in many ways, I didn't want to acknowledge this side that was so hard, because they were such great parents in many ways. Um, but as the oldest, I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want our family nucleus to be, which, I mean, I don't know why your little brain just thinks like everything is going to just fall apart, you know? Because of that, I took on, I think, that masculine role. And I overdid. And I remember just saying to my mom, like, tell me whatever I need to do. This, I was like 9 or 10. What can I do? Just tell me, like, I'll fix it. And I remember my mom feeling so bad. She's like, there's nothing you need to do. Like, we're going to be okay. But it was my thought of like, okay, I can do something. If I can't do something that they need me to do, then I'm going to be the good girl. I'm going to be, make sure I don't rock the boat. I'm going to make sure I make everyone, feel comfortable and safe. So everyone, like, I'm not causing more problems to the situation. So, and I think, growing up, in many ways, it worked for me. I was like that overachiever, did really well in school. It worked really well until it didn't. And there were many times that it didn't, but that's where it came from. And I think the story clarity really helped me to own that beautiful tapestry and see that, hey, the good parts, that's something beautiful to share, because that can be an expansion for people. And the hard parts, like even my family accepting, like, that's okay. Like, stuff happens, but it was really hard. And I think that it was just my overdoing, um, that white knuckling through everything that kind of pushed through the rest of my life. But the story clarity really helped me to see so much of that.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you're just speaking about one session. It's like,
Oh,
wait,
I know.
like, no, I love this, because it's like, well, we're going to need to fast forward for the whole year and what happened then. But I'm just going to pause you here, because what you're saying something really, really important. And this is something I've encountered, not just with you, Marie, with several clients. So I have people come into my life to work with me from all walks of life, really very diverse. And, there's the people who have unfortunately like had very, very dark, traumatic childhoods, right? And part of the work is working through that. And then there's also people who had wonderful childhoods, and like it was all okay. And actually I noticed that, and I want to speak this out loud, because there's some people who actually feel shame. And this is what I
Yes.
remember, you just spoke into. And I remember you and I talking about this quite a few times in terms of the shame around, like, but I don't have a really big traumatic thing that I want to declare to the world, and I need to like get off my chest. And then it's almost like, well, I can't speak up. And then that people pleasing of, well, I'm good and I'm the good girl. Like, but what I hope that people can see from your story, and I know you've seen this since then, is that it's not I had a mentor who used to say, this isn't the vulnerability Olympics. Like, it's not about, who had more trauma than who, and who hurt more than who, and who's more fucked up than who. Like, that's not the conversation that we're having here. It's really about, the way that we grew up in our individual ways. Each one of us deeply imprinted us. And our work when it comes to our awakening and our evolution is to unlearn and undo the conditioning that no longer serves us.
Hello, hello, soul family. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Before we dive back in, I want to share a free resource with you that's been transforming how leaders show up and speak their truth. If you've ever felt like there's a gap between the wisdom you hold inside and what actually comes out when you speak, if you found yourself freezing in high-stakes moments, editing your truth in real time, or leaving conversations thinking, that's not what I meant to say, then you'll want to watch my free masterclass, The Art of Articulation, How to Speak Your Truth Without Freezing, Hiding, or Performance. In this masterclass, I share the 3 core principles that help leaders move from performing to transmitting. So your words don't just inform, they land in people's bodies, in their souls. You'll understand why traditional communication training hasn't worked, what's actually happening in your nervous system when you freeze or edit yourself, and how to build the capacity to speak powerfully in any room. This is not about learning scripts or frameworks. It's about closing the gap between who you are and how you show up, so you can finally express your vision with the same clarity you feel it inside. If you're ready to reclaim your voice and speak from your center, then go to the show notes for the link to dive in. Now let's get back into the episode.
To a certain point, you being the good girl and being an overachiever and doing everything, it got you far enough. It got you far enough for you to get to the place in your life where you had this breakthrough and realization that you couldn't do it. And it actually like flipped you into your sole purpose, where you realized that you really cared about physical health and helping people overcome burnout and all the wonderful things you do today. You would not be as passionate about them. You would not even be aware that these were things that God was calling you to do if you hadn't gone through the history that you've gone through with your family and everything. And so, and I know you know that now, but I'm sharing that for anyone who's listening and just feeling like, oh, it's just seeing themselves in Marie's story, just realizing that, you know, it- so many things can happen to us when we grow up, and it's not our fault, but it is our responsibility to, as Marie shared, look through the tapestry of our story, as we did in our first intensive, and recognize and own, like, okay, this is what happened. Obviously doing the inner work to clear through that, and moving forward, having that be a tool in your toolbox instead of something like an anchor that's holding you down. So then let's fast forward to 1 year later, right? You had the story clearing intensive, and then we worked together for a year, and you experienced some beautiful breakthroughs. I remember from our last conversation, when we did our original case study, you spoke about discovering your, where your overdoing nature and its roots came from. So, what you're sharing around your childhood, it was incredible to really see you recognize that you overdoing, overperforming, and burning out who you are in your soul. It was really about just your conditioning, which you've already started to speak into. Watched you go from me. I remember me being like, Marie, get out of your head. Get out. You're in your head again. You're doing it again. I watched you go from Marie, get out of your head, into I just feel it. It's in my just you trusting and leaning into your intuition in a way that was just remarkable to watch. I watched you raise your rates, and I won't spoil the punchline, but please share what happened in your business when it comes to your income as well, and setting super clear boundaries of what you're willing to do and not willing to do when it comes to how you show up for your work. And I just watched you shift from this space of I'm pushing to I'm allowing. So would you
Yeah.
be able to recap that 1 year journey for us and what came out short? And, we'll talk about what happened since then in a bit, but I'm curious, like the short term, like quote unquote, results, tangible and intangible, when you came out of that year together,
Yeah,
a
and
year
I
and a half.
think because through that story clarity, I allowed myself to see and be okay and not shameful over what I had experienced. I could go in there and it helped me to understand and heal that piece with you, that masculine. And yeah, I remember in our sessions so many times me thinking, Celine, just tell me what to do. Like, I'll do it. Just tell me what to do. And you're like, Marie, get out of your head, get out of your head. And, I started to get, because that was that conditioning of someone knows it better than me. And you are that beautiful guide that God brought to me that I needed to unlock that within me. But you were helping me to get in touch with that inner knowing inside and to trust that. And so as we were doing the work to uncover that and unblock that, unlock it all, I started to trust that inner knowing and not what the outside world was telling me or trying to please them, but what did I really feel in my soul was the right thing to do in these situations? So number one, I know immediately I went in and I doubled my rates. And I remember I was like, just so clammy. And so like, because this went back to the people pleasing again, like, I can't do that. Like, I want them to know, like, I care about them and I love about them. And so I think even healing those money wounds as well was just so huge. And you're like, but what if this is actually the best thing for them? And so I just trusted it. I always say I like had to cover my eyes and I just do it. And I did it. And it was amazing what I've seen in my practice ever since then. Hardly anyone left, honestly. Most of them stayed with me and did the work with me. And not only did they stay with me, but they rose up with me. And that was so cool to see these women that I feel like there was a lot of this dependency on me, I think in many ways, again, to tell them what to do. But then when I started helping them, because I understood what it felt to have that intuition and to trust it, I helped them unlock that within themselves. And now to this day, I tell my clients, like, I'm your guide. But if you don't bring, God, the Holy Spirit into your intuition, whatever it is for you, and allow that to lead you, we're not going to really get too far. Like, we're just not. Well, we're going to keep hitting a wall. And that's what I was doing. I was listening to like all these gurus, all of these people that could do it better. Internet's telling us the way we should do it. And I kept hitting a wall so it's not like you don't need a guide. You need a guide, but it needs to come through your intuition, which is how you came through. It wasn't, oh, Celinne, I know she does work over here. She was in Forbes over here. I didn't even know any of that about you, to be really honest. That was my assistant who knew all of that about you. It was the fact that I just resonated immediately and my intuition knew this is who you're supposed to be with to unlock this next level for your evolution. And since then, everything just, I mean, I don't even, it's been constant, like you said, it's been this onion peel of just peeling off these layers and going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think even this year, really, I think almost fully like let go of that convoluted understanding of the masculine and feminine. And I didn't really like get it. And I really got it now. And I also didn't realize through that, not only was it hurting, my business, the people around me, but it was hurting my marriage. I mean, like, I had a really good marriage. I didn't even know knew this was a problem, and realized that I was actually taking that from him. And all I wanted to do was rest in him. And all he wanted me to do was rest in him. But I was so afraid to. I needed to have that control. So what's funny is, although I healed parts of that masculine, that convoluted masculine and feminine when we started, in really receiving and allowing and moving in flow, it's only like gone deeper and deeper and deeper until like, I think it was maybe in December this past year where there was a huge shift in me and in my marriage. Where, it just like I said, it just pours out and starts, going deeper into all areas of your life, and has really transformed, my life. I've started, Unstoppable program, which is a 6-week program for women. And what's interesting about that too, I ran it twice last year and it was incredible. It's such a special program. And the first time I ran it, so it still will come up. Those things, it comes up and it's just like a different shade of that masculine. And it came up, oh, I need to market this. I need to make sure that this is marketed. We need to be with the best people, spend the most money. I mean, I did well, but the funny thing is I said, I'm going to try something. So the next time I did it, I ran it and launched it in October, November. And I decided I'm going to lean in. My intuition was saying, let go of, the advertising company that I was working with and the money that you had spent. And you're just called to connect. Like, don't even go online, because I felt kind of, I felt like the pressure I needed to be online to sell this program, but it didn't feel authentic to me. I'm like, I know you all are saying this, but it doesn't feel right. So I started to connect with people just one-on-one. And I had more people in the second round without spending any of that money, not being on IG, not being on any platform. I mean, the basics, but not more than that. And I ended up actually doing better than I did the first launch. So that was really neat. Again, tapping into that intuition. And there were times even in that when I was building that program, which took a lot. It takes a lot of, I mean, you all know, and any entrepreneur knows creating a program, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of heart. And there was a part in it that I was talking about the brain. And I mean, this is probably the most scientific heavy aspect that I was working through in creating this program. My husband wasn't able to be around when I was creating this for those 2 weeks. I had my children, they were getting sick. I mean, I was on so little sleep, but I had to get this out, like the deadline was in. And I just remember like, okay, like divine, like work through me, because I have nothing. And that is probably one of my favorite parts of Unstoppable program that I created, but it wasn't me. And so it was like I was able to have this ease, again, just lay back and be more in my feminine and just allow it to flow through me instead of the white knuckling and the pushing. And it's just shown me over time, it's brought nothing but beauty. And my company, I started with one assistant when we were together. And I now have 2 full-time assistants and then have 2 doctors that are on a medical board for my new wellness functional joie app. Joie is French, is joy in French. And so it's just been unreal with what I've been able to create, with all the work that we've done, Celine.
Wow. This is incredible. And I want to slow down and double click on this because what you're sharing, there's just so much gold in what you're sharing. So what I'm hearing is, and I'm filling in the gaps in here, both from our last conversation as well as our private conversations. Um, but when I saw you basically emerge out of that 1.5 year time together, completely transformed. And it's really interesting because the things that you are speaking into now of what you've created now with your program and with your app, and also some other exciting news, it's so consistent. And what I mean by that is this: what I'm hearing is you learn to trust your intuition. You went from living in your head to really dropping into your heart and feeling into things. And that's very clear even from the example of the launch that you just shared, like when you're doing your module and you're like, I'm out of bandwidth. Like, help me, God. These moments of allowing life to flow through us and really allowing intuition to work its way through. I've heard the boundaries piece, and you didn't share this yet, but one of the things you said to me in the last case study that was so potent is the ways that you restructured your schedule for you to have more space to be at home with your children and also more creative space. Because I remember you used to take calls like anytime, any day. And I remember we had a huge discussion. It was a really beautiful discussion around getting you to that place where you had very clear boundaries around what time you work, when you're available for calls, when you're not available, like when you're clocking off so you can spend more time with your babes. And, that was really, really big. And what that created from where I sit and where watching you is that created that spaciousness for you to not only um, double your actual revenue, but it's like you literally doubled your business revenue, which I'd love for you to share more about how you did that, and created all the spaciousness in your life for you to actually live your life. So before we take a step, because I want to talk more about your current program and what's happening in your life right now, can you share with us, from your perspective of the transformations you created, what were the skills you needed to learn? What were the things that you carried with you and you had to deeper embody for you to create what you did in your business that allowed you to double your revenue, that allowed you to hire more team members, that allowed you to have more space? Can you share with us what happened, how soon, and how did you do it based on these
No,
tools?
it actually makes me emotional just thinking about it, because when I was just preparing for, just kind of thinking about the work that we had done together, um, it's funny. I used to think my way through. That's what I did. That's all I knew how to do. Actually, it's like I said, it serviced me for so long. It's like, well, of course, like that's how I got straight A's in school. Like that's what I got to do to be successful in business, and in life. And that's not the truth. And now I feel my way through. But also again, with having that feminine side of me with that masculinity of those boundaries and saying no. And it's funny, Celine, your personality, like, I mean, we know, like, we are naturally like the yin and the yang in many ways, and just like who we are naturally, it's a beautiful thing. And it's like, the more I was with you, I was like she's driving me nuts in this area of like the boundaries and like the firmness and all this. And I'm like, I know this is exactly what I needed. I needed to be and see it with someone like you, in how, so that I could feel safe enough to try it out myself. And so I started to create, working from that intuition. That was like number one. So working there and trusting that first. And then from there, it was, where do we create space? So number one, with the rates, how I was working, that was one huge place. Also in my greater community, because what I did so many times was I was people pleasing that, I thought it was coming from the right place. And in many ways it really was, it was coming from my heart to help them, but it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. Like, it was like I was wasting time for the biggest purpose and where I needed to be. And I was like, we were going to every event, everything. We've got a very vibrant community around us here. And I like didn't say no, because this is what people did. It's like, you just kind of keep up. I always say, in every group, people, oftentimes will keep up with the Joneses. And I don't just mean financially, but it's, you got to be like everyone else and do what everyone else is doing to fit in. And I remember being at a baby shower and looking around at these beautiful women around me, but realizing like everyone's the same, everyone's alike, like no one's saying no anywhere, like everyone's doing the same thing. And I just like wanted to run. And it was in that moment that I started to say no to the things that were draining my energy, and yes, to in my energy and my family. Because the more I was doing all of these things outside of me, or these things in business that were to help someone that didn't feel aligned, but I was doing it because I wanted to be kind. Again, a different understanding of what true kindness is. That's not true kindness, because it wasn't helping them. Because I truly believe when you are listening to your intuition, even if it makes those uncomfortable around you, it is literally the most loving thing you can do, not just for yourself, but truly for every single person around you. I believe it brings and helps everyone back into alignment when you're listening to your own alignment, even if it's like really uncomfortable and they don't like what you're doing at first. So that did happen, honestly, in the community we were in. Again, beautiful, beautiful people, but it wasn't where I was supposed to be spending all my time. And so that, because I started saying no more, I was actually looked at as, go see Marie if you want to learn how to be kind in creating boundaries and saying no. Because this was something too, honestly, Celine. Hopefully I'm not sure if I'm able to say this, but I always thought that, being, holding boundaries, saying no was bitchy, like that I had to be a bitch essentially to do that, and realizing, oh, I don't have to do that. I can still be me. And that was something that, you and I worked together to bring that authenticness within me, that heart and that love within me, but also doing it with boundaries and realizing that that's the best for everyone around you when you're listening to your own intuition and boundaries. And so that really allowed for a lot of space, to then put my energy into the things that I believe God was asking me to create, into my family, into my business, and creating, Unstoppable, and creating this Joie app. There's no possible way I could have done it if I was saying yes to every person around me like I was doing in my past.
Hmm.
And so I'm so grateful, and I feel like I'm even helping my family with this now, because one of the gifts that my family does have as a whole, is they're very loving, like unconditionally loving to people. And it's beautiful. But then I'm like, Mom and Dad, like these people are like walking on you. And they're like, well, we don't know how to like be kind and loving to them, but also have a boundary. And it's neat because now I can share that with them, or share that with my sisters. And so, to your point of the onion layers and the growth, it's not just happening with me. Now I'm seeing it in my family and my mom and dad and like friends. And I have lost, I don't want to say lost friends, but I think those that didn't like me saying no to, everything that they were doing or yes to everything that they were doing. And that's hard. That's the discomfort. But as my husband says, is that where you're supposed to be though? Like, does it feel right? And I'm like, no, it feels so good. Like once you're on this path, you can't stop. Once you recognize it, you're a growth guru, you're in your femininity. Even if the masculine comes up and I'm like, well, maybe someone does have a better way and don't have to listen to my intuition. I'm aware of it now. And so I can quickly bring that back into alignment again because it's not like that subconscious programming was there for so long. And so yeah, that's what's been happening in my home, and I think I was so resentful. I also, even when we started working together, was so resentful because I'm like, I want to be with my family. I want to be a great mom. I want to have a great marriage. And I'm like, how am I going to do all of this? Like, and realizing, oh, in my head, and when you're working through your head and you're thinking your way through, you got to do like 100 things, hoping something's going to stick. When you work your intuition, those 100 things come down to 1 to 3. That's it. And they're those needle movers. And then all of a sudden, when you just hone in and you just 10x on those 1 to 3 areas, you have so much space and so much more success in your business, in your life. I mean, it's been incredible, absolutely incredible. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. There's a few things here that are so potent. So, the first, this conversation that we're having about boundaries, I've had it with many, many, many clients. You are not the only one. You're not the first. You're not the last. And it's interesting because I've had to go through my own journey when it comes to setting boundaries. And, even when you're like, there's other case studies where my clients are like, oh my God, you triggered me so much in the beginning because people come to me when they're
Yes.
ready to stop it with
Yes.
being a people pleaser and being, just saying yes to everything you just said. And because there's all of this fear that lives in the body around what if I get cut out of my tribe, which looks like, maybe not fitting into this community that you used to hang out in. And like, what if people stop hiring me, which may look like a few lost clients. And there are consequences to us saying yes to ourselves. But, the irony is not lost on me. People come to me as well because they want to learn clear and strong boundaries because I don't fuck around. So it's like, but again, it's the key is from the heart. It's the heart.
Yes.
The heart is the thing we cannot lose, right? And so when you're sharing with me these things, it's like you're not saying no because the story was like, if I say no, I'm going to be a bitch. But the thing is, when you started to reprogram that, you realize that you're saying no so that you can be home at dinner with your children and give them your full presence every night so that your children have a present mom in their life. Like you're saying no so that you have space to go on a date night with your husband. You're saying no so that you are showing up for a certain caliber of client who values your time, who values your energy, and actually does the work that you ask them to do because they're taking the work seriously, right? And so when it's such a scary journey because the little one inside of us thinks that we're going to lose all these things, and sometimes it's those fears are not unfounded in the sense that you will lose friends, you might lose clients, you might even lose a partner. Like there's a payoff. But like you said, when you start to really learn how to listen to your intuition, like that voice that comes, I like to think of intuition as the soul's voice, and the soul is a puzzle piece of God, right? And
Yes.
so it's just a whisper that's really like a walkie-talkie that's coming directly from
Yes.
God into your
Love it.
body. And you start to really operate from your heart and see the big picture at hand. These boundaries become really healthy things. And not only that, they actually create more spaciousness for you to create more energetic abundance, financial abundance. And that's what you've experienced. I remember even looking at your form recently when we were saying like we're going to do the case study again, and just looking at your very first form 4 years ago. And there were things that you were saying. You're like, I want more space. I want to have more spaciousness. I want to have more time to spend with my children. You said, I want to move to Spain. You said
Yeah.
you said I want to grow my business. Like there was all these things you put on your form 4 years ago, and when we fast forward today, I have seen you manifest so many of those dreams, including your signature program, your app, but even beyond that, you have a really exciting move on the horizon that I'd love for you to share about. Time with your kids, like so I'm just curious, like now where you are. So you're building a team, you have your app, you have your program, your life, literally your environment is about to shift majorly. Can you share with us what your life looks like now that you have integrated and implemented all these changes that we were working on during our time together?
All right. So I'll definitely share about the travel piece in just a second. But on I wanted to go back on the friendship piece, which because I want to bring that to where we are now. And I think that what's been so beautiful is listening to that whisper, listening to that your intuition, right? Um, and having to also speak up to friends who, I felt again intuitively that this is someone and I'm supposed to speak to them about this because I felt sometimes my boundaries being pushed or, as a wellness practitioner, people are coming to me like a doctor all the time, and asking me questions all the time. And it's very hard at times without when you don't have boundaries. And when I brought those conversations up, having those hard conversations, yes, right, like Celine said, there are people you're going to lose, and that's okay. They were meant for you at that time, or you were meant for them, and they were meant for you at a time. And now you're meant for something different, and that's okay and so beautiful too. But what's neat is those friendships that I have shared and, new boundaries and shared from a place of love. I tell my daughter, Sienna, you can say anything. Like, don't be afraid of being bold. Don't be afraid of listening to what your heart is saying. She's 10. So we're trying to work on helping her to get in touch with what that intuition is at such a young age. But if you say it in love, for yourself and for the other person with love and respect for the other person, my goodness, you can say anything. And not only that, but you're giving them also a chance to rise up too. And that I have like goosebumps telling you that because I have seen that in several of my friendships now where they have now risen to that occasion and they're growing now with leaps and bounds too. And so I'm not afraid in friendships anymore or in client relationships anymore to share that because I know it's not just about me, it's also for their highest good as well. And that's made it feel so much more safe and fun, even if scary, because it is like that's the hard part. It is scary. The unknown is scary. Growth is scary, but it gets to be so fun and so magical that once you're on this journey, you couldn't imagine doing it any other way. Like you literally cannot do it any other way. Um, and then the other big piece in it where we are today is we ended up actually selling our house. Something inside of us, both myself and my husband, we really wanted to move to Spain. My husband's great grandfather comes from Spain. That's a whole other journey, but we say we're like Noah on Noah's Ark. We're hanging out in the Ark right now. We're in an Airbnb. And I can't tell you when we're stepping off on land, but I know all I can say is there has been massive, massive magical moments that you can't make this stuff up for us to get to the point that we are. We are very, very close. Like it's right there, but we can't see it. And that's the hard part. So many people have said to us, they're like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? Like, how could you do this? And I'm like, but you could do it too. Whatever your thing is, whether it's moving away or it's whatever big dream that you have on your heart, take the leap. I remember when we sold our house and we were getting ready the next day to sign the contract to sell our house. I mean, and by the way, we had just like created the most gorgeous kitchen, like stunning kitchen, had put so much money into it. And yet we felt, okay, we're supposed to sell this. And now we're in this cute Airbnb, but we're in an Airbnb. But I remember the night before we had to sign the contract. And I said to my husband, we were in bed and I go, babe, are you up? And he's like, yep, I'm up. And I go, do you feel like you're like about to just jump out of a plane right now? And he said, That's exactly how I feel. And that's how it felt. It was that cliff jump. But oh my gosh, all I can say is the more you listen to your intuition, the more you say no to the things that are not truly soul aligned to you and give yourself space to say yes and take those cliff jumps, you're going to quantum leap faster than you could ever possibly imagine and see so much magic along the way, even if it's the unknown part. That's the payoff. The trade-off is, nope, you're not going to be in the same box as everyone or as you were in the past. But do you want to be? Do you want to be? No way. And if you want to live a big magical life in whatever that is to your soul, that's how you do it. And it's going to look different. Obviously, everyone's context is different, but yeah.
I love it. I love it. There's something that you said to me in our last recording that feels so relevant to what you're speaking into now, which was one of the really big takeaways from our work together. And all I'm hearing is, and I'm witnessing you just continue to master this concept, which is you spoke about learning to sit in discomfort and allowing it to move through you, and how this was a really big lesson of our work together. And so can you talk about, obviously this you're speaking into this indirectly now, but I'm curious about how you have been applying this lesson since, and just that connection that you have experienced between the challenge of what it takes to do the inner transformation and how that connects to external results.
Yes, absolutely. So, again, I'm jumping it back because it connects and it's so important, that story clarity, understanding, why, I grew up in a joyful home, but also a home that sometimes was afraid to look at what wasn't working or where there was hard things, and I think a lot of our parents' generation comes from that generation of you hide the dirty laundry, if you will, whatever that is to anyone. So it was my mom, she's so wonderful. She was brought so much joy into our home, but instead of allowing us to sit in that difficultness throughout our life, it was let's focus on how to make this better and lift you up and help bring joy to you again, which was so beautiful. But there was a step that Celine taught me in that was, oh, I can't bypass that feeling and what I was experiencing, or it's just going to sit there and hang out and do its own little thing as you're moving through life. You got to sit in it. And I did not. I mean, I remember you talking to me about that. And I was like, this is not feeling good. And you're like, it's not supposed to feel good. It doesn't feel good. But what I remember you telling me, and I remember the first time I had practiced this, I was sitting in my bed and I don't remember exactly what it was that was uncomfortable that I was moving through. But instead of jumping when a challenge came, instead of jumping immediately to what is the answer? What's the solution? How do we make it better? It was, no, I'm being allowed. This challenge is also for me. What's the lesson in here? This triggered me. This was hard. So I need to sit in it. I need to honor it. I need to give it space. And I remember you saying, where you just sit and give it space, however time, maybe get that 24 hours, cry, sit in it, let it move through you until it completely dissipates. And that was so huge because I don't remember. There was something really big. I think it was some type of big up level, to be honest, business wise, that I was dealing with. And there was a big trigger that came. And I remember you saying I didn't run anymore. I didn't run to go fix it and make it better and think my way through. It was just sit in it and allow whatever's needs to move through, allow it to move through you. And what was neat in that I learned and I embodied was by doing it was that it wasn't so scary. And that taught me, oh, okay, by going through it, things that my brain would attach to think was the business is going to fall apart. The rug's going to be ripped up from underneath me. It was, oh, that's not so bad. That's not so scary. And so allowing it to move through me helped me to really acknowledge that pain, that discomfort, learn the lesson also, what was that trigger there? And I take all of this work into the work now I do with my clients. And it's that trigger's there for you. I always say, they're speed bumps, like bumps. We think of speed bumps as slowing you down. And like they are, like when something happens in your health that feels like a challenge, lean into it, because the more you lean into it and you slow down, you're going to receive the keys that you need to uniquely move to your, true healing and health, or whatever it is goal that you're working through. And so that was, I mean, I literally can remember being in my bed the first time that happened. Um, and it all of a sudden just dissipated. And I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I learned the lesson. And now I can deal with that, and it didn't seem like such a huge scary problem, and I can up level, and I could hold more space for more things because it didn't seem scary anymore. I mean, it does at first. You got to move it through your nervous system, but when you have the tools, you know what to do, and you're like, oh, I know this feeling. I just got to go there and move it through.
Hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so much. This is so potent because what you're sharing is such an important skill set that I believe we each need to develop and build within ourselves, not just as human beings, but also as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Because, we're going to face challenges. And even as, in your case, as mothers and as women, like there's so many factors in here. But what it comes down to is that for us to do big, great things, we need to have capacity and we need to know how to lead ourselves through that. And if we are trying is the key word here, to do things, like force and push our way up a hill for us to achieve something because of the story we tell ourselves of what that will mean about us, and then we're unwilling or we run away from the discomfort, what that leads to is a constant cycle of self-sabotage, burnout, and just having the inability to be able to complete the task at hand, because something so big and something so significant, like you were sharing in your story earlier on, that module that you were having a really hard time creating because there was so much going on in your life, that, like, you just needed to surrender and say, "God, move this through me because I can't right now," And that's not you pushing a hill up. That is you allowing and surrendering into something that's bigger, and it's going to require us to feel the uncomfortable feelings, to sit in our own metaphorical shit, and
Yeah.
to allow it to dissipate, because when we allow that to emerge and clear through our systems, then we actually create more space for creativity, for innovation, for inspiration to come. So it's such a beautiful illustration of that. So as there's so many things that you shared with us today. So as we begin to close today's share, Marie, what I'm really curious about is if we take all the broad strokes and all the little details and everything that we said today and we wrap it up for whoever's listening into a really big, beautiful bow. In the last 4 years of you, doing this work on yourself, for yourself, and just leading yourself through this journey, I'm really curious if you could recap, what would you say have been your biggest breakthroughs and key takeaways that
Oh
you're going
my
to be carrying with you?
goodness. Celine, there's too many. I'd say the biggest piece is acknowledging my past and not being shameful over the good, and the hard parts, and being able to sit in the hard, and moving that through me, having those tools to again create that capacity for myself to grow and do, like, I don't want to say do more, but take on more and up level and become the person that I need to be in order to up level to that next place, and continue to evolve. The biggest part too would be that intuition. And I think that a lot of people just think it's like, oh, just do what feels good. And it's like, you don't just like sit there and like eat bonbons and manifest. Like, that's not like what I mean. And honestly, that's kind of what I thought. I'm like, I'm not just gonna sit there. It's not gonna happen like that. I mean, it can, but that's a whole nother thing. When you're doing the work, it can happen like that. But it's more of listening to those whispers of, instead of me thinking my way, what's that next step to do? Like hiring, spending so much money to sell my program. Instead of doing that, go inside and go, maybe I would be told to do that, but that was totally a pushing thing, a thinking thing. It's listening to those inner whispers of, what is that feminine side, asking of me to do? It's waiting, it's listening, getting quiet, and asking like, what do you want me to do? What's the next step for this? And not with this guru saying, and maybe you're supposed to be with that guru, but go to your intuition first. And that is what you really, I think, is the biggest piece, because whether it was the boundaries, or whether it was the, saying no more and creating more space, or up leveling my rates and creating a bigger team and all the other things that I've been creating in my business, it came down to that. And that was you, Marie, saying, you, Marie, get out of your head, get out of your head. And I'm like, oh, if she would just tell me what to do, like, I will do it. Like, why can't she get it? Like, I'll do it. And it was like, no, you were helping me to get in touch and unlock my own, that divine peace within us. And I think with AI and all of these things happening around us, people being afraid, like, oh, I'm going to lose my job, or they're not going to need me as a practitioner, or whatever growth mindset teacher there is out there. It's like, that is completely not true. Like, I don't believe in that at all. I think AI is an incredible tool that we can springboard to create more space, to create more capacity. But the AI is not the divine. AI is not the divine within you. You have that innate genius inside of you. So filtering everything through there, that's the way to create magic in your life. And I think the last piece is taking those cliff jumps. I just want to encourage, like, if there's one cliff jump that any of you have been desiring to do, but so scared, that's the sign. Go do it. And you're going to create, I have goosebumps as I'm saying this to you. Go do it, because you're going to create unbelievable magic inside of your life. And all these tools that I have that just continue to grow and grow came from the work that we did together. And I'm forever grateful.
Me too. I love working with you. I love being your friend. I love watching you shine. I love helping you help other women. It's just incredible to watch, and just like your kiddos, and all of it, all of it. All the stories you tell me every time you send me a voice note brings the biggest smile to my face. So the last question that I have for you here is, so someone who's listening here and she's just received your incredible insights, who was in the position that you were 4 years ago, where you're like stuck and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And they're considering going on this journey for themselves. What would you tell this person that is the former version of you before you started to do this inner transformational work on yourself?
I think one, don't be, I mean, it's hard to not be afraid, but it's definitely not as big and scary as we make it out to be. It's more the feeling of thinking about it that's the most scary, as opposed to actually doing it. But I I think that looking back, it's about getting quiet. It's about letting go of the noises around you, saying no to the things around you that you feel drained with. You feel like that's the whisper. That person, that thing, that job, if you're feeling that draining energy, that's probably a sign of, okay, that's where I can go. That's the flashlight that I need to go to create more space, to create more capacity. And I think also, looking at your triggers too, like, what are the things that trigger you? Because I know we're not all ready to take on our triggers, but having maybe a list of that you keep, I have it on my notes app inside of my phone, and I tell my girls to do it too. And we've talked about this,
Yeah, the
where
trigger
just
journal.
keeping the trigger journal, keeping a trigger journal of all the things, even if you're not ready to go there yet, that's okay. Just write it down. This person, this thing, this whatever triggered me, because that is a direct, I mean, they're like, that's awesome. When I see the triggers, I'm like, yes, now. I'm like, I know where to go to start working on. Whereas before, they would have scared me and I would want to run. And so now if all you can do is just create the list and sit with the list of triggers and go, okay, God, like, what's one trigger that I want to lean into? Just one. And I always say in this space, go with what feels the lightest and the easiest. It's, listening, when you're following your intuition, it's not going to feel like, it's going to feel grounded. It's not going to feel chaotic. There's going to be peace, and groundedness, even if scary, because it's the unknown. And so I think that's where you can start when you have more space and you start looking at the healing work. And then also the last piece in this, I would say at that time, because I think it's about becoming aware, um, is maybe once a week. If it's not each night, it's once a week, looking at your week and what worked, what wasn't working, where were those triggers? Where do I need to say no? If we don't reflect, and we don't have a GPS to where we're going, we're just going to be swept away with the world. And then, asking like, what are those tools? Like, let your intuition lead you. Do I need someone like Celine? For me, that's exactly what I needed to unlock. So I think it's like doing that instead of looking outside of ourselves on IG. And there's just so much out there, which is beautiful. But if you don't make time to be quiet and reflect, it's going to be very difficult to figure out, to know the route and feel your way through the best and fastest route for your highest evolution in your soul.
Ah, that was so beautifully said. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that was incredible. I just loved, like, every time you tell me about everything you're creating, I just get so blown away. I really, really love, deeply love and appreciate your ability to you just show up, you do work. And then you implement it, and then you integrate it, and then you embody it, and then you pass it forward. And that is the vibe. So thank you so much for everything that you've created and the woman that you help and how you show up for life, how you show up for your kids, how you show up for your friends, how you show up for your clients. I just deeply admire and respect you, and
You
everything
too.
that you stand for. So yeah, anyways, Marie, that is today's case study. Before I wrap everything up, are there any final words that you'd like to share?
Just that I am so grateful for you, and I will forever be grateful for you. And for anyone that's listening, whatever you've gone through, whether it's, in the health of your body or that you're experiencing, or it's in life in general, just know that it gets to be incredible. Life gets to be incredible. Your body gets to feel amazing. And you really can reach those goals and dreams. Just get quiet and listen to your intuition.
Beautifully said. And Marie, for those of us who want to learn a little bit more about you, I will be linking to this in the show notes, but where can we find you?
Yes, at the Feminine Biohacker on Instagram or mariepoza.com.
Beautiful. That will all be linked in the show notes. And as always, if there's anything you've heard today that super inspired you, any insights, quotes from either myself or Marie, don't be shy. Screenshot it. Let us know. Tag us on Instagram or other socials, and let us hear from you, because we'd love to hear when things touch you. I'm sure you could relate as well. So thank you, Marie, for coming here today. And I will be speaking to you very soon. And thank you for everyone who's been listening. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning into today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.